Hello and welcome back to Arcale Soup Towers. This evening I would like to tell you a story which I heard growing up as a child in North Wales. It's linked very much with a very famous archaeological discovery from the town of Mold. The Mold Gold Cape is housed today in the British Museum, and I believe recently actually went on a tour back to North Wales. But it is a famous Bronze Age artefact which has this story attached to it. And I first read this story when I was a teenager, but first heard it when I was a small boy, and it scared me a lot because I knew the landscape. And hopefully you guys will enjoy this too. I'm talking obviously about Mold. That's where the cape is from. And Mold has a history which predates the Romans. The centrepiece of the town is its Bailey Hill, a partly natural, partly man-made formation which rises above the elegant Gothic parish church of St Mary, providing a landmark for miles around. It gave its name to the Celtic settlement Urwithgrig, the Green Mound, and to the English one, Mold, which is itself a corruption of the name which the Romans gave to the mound Mont Atlas as they passed by when they came to this part of Britain. Ancient skeletons are occasionally dug up around the Bailey Hill, but this is not really the hill that I'm interested in today. I'm interested in another hill on the outskirts of Mold, Bryn Echillon, the Hill of the Goblins. Now, this has a haunted reputation. For centuries, tales had been told of a giant phantom called Brenin Acht, the king of the hillside, who roamed the area around a burial mound on the hill. A woman encountered this spectre in the 18th century and was driven mad by the sight of it. It was, she said, glittering and shining gold. In 1830, a farm wife returning home from the Mold market was making her way up Bryn Echillon when she saw a weird golden glow emanating from the woods to one side of her. Suddenly, out of the trees strode a huge man, clad in ancient armour, apparently made entirely of gold. His whole body seemed surrounded by light as he crossed her path. Suddenly, the apparition strode away into the burial mound, and the light was extinguished. The woman was so alarmed she ran immediately back to Mold to tell her vicar about it. He wrote her story down and got several witnesses to sign the document, attesting that what was written was what she had said. 3 years later, some solid evidence to prove the truth of her story was found when the mound was broken into during a road widening exercise. Inside was found a prehistoric grave and the tall skeleton of a man. About its shoulders was a large cape of the purest gold. This cape, the largest piece of worked Bronze Age gold to be found in Europe, is now on prominent display in the British Museum. Unfortunately, it suffered rather at the hands of those who discovered it, who tore chunks away to melt it down for jewellery, but it is said that ill fortune followed all those who had disturbed the grave. And many felt the presence of Brenin Acht dogging their footsteps as they walked about the site. The ancient king may still yet haunt the area, or so the disturbing experience of Paul Adams suggests. Mr. Adams was walking home across the rugby field which adjoins the site of the burial, now obscured by a house building, one night in December 1988, when he heard the sound of footsteps approaching him. He peered through the darkness and was unable to see anyone. I stopped to wait for whoever it was to appear, Mr. Adams explained, but then the footsteps stopped too. I listened for a bit and then continued, and the footsteps immediately started up again, just a few yards ahead of me. They had a strange sound, a crunching as if whoever was making them was walking on frosty ground. But there was no one in front, and there was no frost underfoot at all. There was something very eerie about this, so I decided to head back the way I'd come. But as I turned round, the footsteps seemed to follow. Suddenly they were ahead of me again, approaching from the opposite direction. Immediately I turned back, but still they came on. I turned again, and they were still coming towards me. I was really scared by this time. The footsteps started to walk around and around me, continually hemming me in. Finally, I just ran for it. I have no intention of walking that way home again. So, those are the stories surrounding the discovery of the Mould Gold Cape. Many archaeological discoveries have scary stories attached to them. For example, Sutton Hoo has a very famous story of Saxon ghosts guarding the burial mounds. But this is, and has been for a long time, my favourite archaeological ghost story, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed it too. Whatever you're up to this Halloween, have a wonderful time. As ever, until next time, take care. Bye bye.